Welcome, friends, to episode 288 of Color Magic, your Magic Gaming podcast, where we talk about all types of issues that affect gamers at and away from their gaming tables and computers. I am your host, PowrDragn, and for 288 surprisingly still here episodes, still got my main man, Brian Sonic. How's it going, dude?
Or you make it sound like you're surprised that I'm still alive or something. I'm still
I'm
here.
just saying, just that the show is at this point. Shoot, it's a long time. People don't like we're in what year 5 of this thing already. Like it's been a minute. That's a lot of episodes, man. We're almost at 300. That's crazy. Like, and then thinking about in the beginning where we didn't even know, it's like, well, try it. We'll see if
Yeah,
people
let's see
even
if anybody
listen.
actually listens to this.
Yeah, but hey, we're still here.
Which, if you're not, a famous athlete or some kind of celebrities, I think everybody starts like, I'm not sure if anybody will listen to this, but
Yeah, Ronaldo just puts on a microphone and a
yeah,
million people show up to listen. So
for us normal mortals, when you start and you just don't know.
Yep. But hey, we're glad you're here. If you've been here and you want to support the show, be sure to check out our Patreon. You go to patreon.com/color of magic. Throw a couple bucks our way. Help us keep the lights on. Help us keep our pets fed. The usual. And you can get a shout out just like Barry Drake. So thank you for being a patron.
It
But
was him, Barry. I had
yeah,
to.
exactly. But we're going to start this week with some pretty serious news, with this whole boycott situation you may have heard about. If you don't know what it is, we're going to set a little bit of backstory here because there's some stuff people I don't think realize what was going on. But your top line is a bunch of people right now are boycotting TCGPlayer, the place you go buy all your Magic, Pokemon, or whatever. Now, what people aren't aware of, a couple years ago, TCGPlayer sold to eBay, which is kind of where a lot of this originates as far
Yeah,
as
I
far
was
as the
not aware
problem.
of that until this came up.
Yeah, there's a lot of people who weren't, surprisingly. And it was a pretty big deal. Chetty Hampson, the guy who owned it before, he got effectively bought out, like sold it for $295 million, which is no small amount of money. I mean, it also says credit to him how much you built up a website that somebody's willing to pay that much, right? When you're ever wondering how much commerce went through a website, it was enough that even with their 2%, 10%, 5% here and there, they were able to sell a site for $300 million effectively,
Right.
right? So this is big boy business. This isn't small potatoes by any stretch. And, there was also, for people say like, he probably just took the money and ran. From what I understand, they did take care of some long-term employees and stuff, whatever, as part of the deal. And so it was all mostly good, but hey, eBay was coming, right? And things have been kind of up and down from what I've heard. Not all great, not all bad, but that's business until recently. And I guess my understanding from what I could find out is that their union has been wanting to negotiate on behalf of the employees for some extra things. It doesn't sound like anything crazy, but typical union negotiations. Like, maybe slightly better pay, maybe slightly better benefits, a couple extra days vacation, that type
Why
of stuff.
unions exist, essentially.
Yeah. And what we're hearing is that eBay made the corporate statement of, well, our authentication process hasn't been as good, or we feel like we've lost some money on these things. So we want to move and set up our office in Kentucky to make it more efficient. And, there's a lot of that talk. Now, when you read between the lines and talk to the people who are involved, they're saying, well, let's slow down. Like, all of a sudden, these conversations got pretty heavy about moving and such as the union decided to start negotiating.
Yeah.
So it's like that could be coincidental, but not real likely. Also, look at where they're wanting to move it to, right? From Syracuse, New York to their offices in Kentucky, where fewer labor protections, fewer
Much
union
lower
protections.
wage.
Yeah, minimum. You're talking about minimum wage in Kentucky is still $7.25, right? So obviously they want to get out cheaper. If I were guessing, this likely also leads to just lower service for the buyers on TCGPlayer, because you're going to have something happen in the interim where employees would be moving anyway. And then like the quality of the employees you're going to have to replace them with aren't going to be as skilled or as trained or whatever. So none of this is really going to be good. But this is pretty serious. And if you're wondering how serious it is, I mean, I've seen several big name creators. We're talking about like Maldhound, Tappy Toe Claws, like people have like huge followings in different parts of the gaming sector or even just nerd communities. Not even just gaming sector, because I've seen it with some of the Pokemon players and stuff as well. And they're just fully backing it and they're explaining the situation to everybody. On top of that, there's people who have sponsorship deals with TCG Player that have not promoted them for the last couple weeks. Even somebody like Yeoman 5, we just launched, well, about to launch, I guess. We're doing early access stuff with Final Fantasy. He always does 50 new decks with the new set, front page on TCG Player. He literally just said, hey, this one's not sponsored. He just has a Blue Sky thread. If you want them, just follow them. They're over there. But that tells you people are giving up actual money for things they don't get many opportunities to do that pay pretty well. And they're just saying, like, yeah, we back the employees here. We're not
And
backing the
that's a
business.
great thing to see, by the way, because that's, nobody beats a corporation by themselves. People have to work together, and that's what we're seeing.
Yeah, and I've had some people say, well, how is this different than what happened with Card Kingdom a couple years ago? Said, well, the difference here is that Card Kingdom, while just being rough around the edges on things, still was at the negotiation table with the union, and they weren't planning to move the office out of the area. Now they ended up moving their warehouse a couple miles north, but employees could still keep the jobs or wherever. They just had a longer commute, whatever. And that was literally like, even since I had been there, they had been looking for places to expand to a bigger warehouse and wherever. They just probably the only thing they could find that was affordable because there's nothing really in the heart of Seattle where they are, to be honest. But they're still working with the union. Even now, like, if anything, people aren't necessarily super happy with their union at this point. They want them to do a little more. But they're still not trying to circumvent everything and say, well, to not deal with the union and everything else, we're just going to move the offices, right? That's not what's going on here. So yeah, different situations, but still a situation where we are trying to get, union protections for the different groups of employees, different unions, because you're obviously talking about groups on opposite ends of the country, and so they're not necessarily the same groups. But it's tough, and to some extent, there are players saying, well, why do I care? Right? Does this make my cards any cheaper? Does this get me any more options I could buy from? It's like, maybe not. We don't know. But the reality is, at the end of the day, as we've seen, companies ain't just going to lower their prices. Like, even if they move to a place that's cheaper, they just pocket more of it. Like, none of that goes to the employees. None of that goes to the customers. Hell, we've seen that even now, right? When we were at the height of COVID and stuff was hard to get and whatever. Well, once the supply chain was back to normal, and we've even seen where some of the prices have come closer to back to normal. Still like minor increases, but still closer to back to normal than they were pre-COVID. None of your prices for anything came down. They still kept them the same. So them moving their offices doesn't mean you're going to get better deals. That's just not the way it works, unfortunately.
But if they aren't stopped, you likely will end up with worse deals because a corporation the size of eBay just puts its competitors out of business eventually. You'll end
Yeah.
up with literally only TCG Player to buy cards from online if they aren't stopped.
Yeah. I mean, I will say this. I have seen, I believe the Mana Pool is a site that lets people come. You can set up your little businesses on there or whatever. So that's a thing that's been getting promoted more. So some people have started moving over there. Granted, they only do Magic right now, so I'd have to look around and see if something similar exists for Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh, whatever. But there's the Mana Pool. Obviously, there's some people already did stuff through Amazon because you can set up your own Amazon stores. Some people are still doing Etsy shops and still selling stuff through there. So that's a thing. Obviously, those aren't necessarily the brand name that are aggregated to bring everybody to there. But at least the Mana Pool is closer if you're a Magic player. You could bring stuff there and just be a Magic targeted audience. But there's options. But it does suck. This is the other part of all of this is there are some people that are going to have, just we'll call them backpack dealers, just doing stuff out of their home. Maybe they buy, sell, trade stuff, and they have a shop on TCG Player. Some actual LGSs use TCG Player as a way to offload some merchandise. It allows them to buy
Yeah.
from their local markets, so people want to come sell them cards and they can sell them online. Those people are going to get hurt by this, and it sucks. but it's just kind of the nature of business, right? You can't not make a stand against something you believe is right because some business will be hurt. Right? It sucks. And I've been in that situation when I ran a business. I had to make some decisions or decide to support some certain things that I knew were necessarily going to be a little bad for business, especially when you live in a very southern conservative
Yeah.
area and you want to support some things. You just got to do what you got to do, right? Like it happens. But you come out the other side, you have a little more respect, you build up that part of the community, and long term the benefits are there. Short term though, you may have to take a hit for like a month, and it sucks. But yeah, man, I don't know where this is going to end. It sounds like they were actually pretty close to wanting to close things on eBay's part. The last I heard, like they're already trying to move forward with stuff to circumvent some of the unionized things. So the union's obviously trying to block stuff and keep it from moving till stuff's negotiated. So I don't know what's going to happen with the end of it. It's a crazy mess right now.
Yeah, it just I mean, corporations gonna be corporations. Unfortunately, they just every bit you gain in terms of salary, in terms of benefit, insurance, everything is you have to fight for it. They don't just randomly. There, you see those lists curated. Okay, these are the 10 best corporations in terms of treating workers. They are sadly few and far between. The majority of major corporations, this is literally how unions came to exist. If you didn't have unions, children would be working in mines still.
Hell, they're trying to get that in some states still.
Right.
Here's a crazy thing too. Here's something to think about that I came across not long ago, and I had this thought with people. But if you've started at a job where they paid you the state minimum wage, they effectively would have paid you less. They just legally can't.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think many people think about that, but they only started you at 725 because that was the lowest they could pay you.
Exactly. If they could go lower.
Yeah, they absolutely would.
There's a lot of newspapers where if they could make people work for tips legally, they would do that. There's no doubt
yeah,
in my mind.
absolutely,
I've worked in a
100%.
couple.
But I don't think people think about that. They just go, "Oh, they just pay that because that's what you have to pay or whatever." It's like, yes, that's because that's what they have to pay.
Right.
Like, I don't think you realize the words you're saying when you say
just
that.
some things volunteers can't do well. It's just or else they'd be using volunteers.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. So it's a tough thing, and I will say this: I'm, at least from a boycott standpoint, somewhat sheltered because I haven't done a lot of business on TCGPlayer recently. I mean, I bought a few cards. I think, hell, the most recent things I bought were probably late last year, so probably in the ballpark of 8 or 9 months ago. And I haven't bought anything on eBay. Dude, I can't even tell you the last thing I bought from eBay.
It's been a minute.
Like
I know millions of people still do. It's how they're able to write these $250 million checks for websites and things. But it has been a minute.
They're obviously still doing a lot of and I see people post about stuff in different like Facebook groups and things or deals they found on social media. But I personally haven't bought anything from eBay in several years. Hell, I had to check and see if even my eBay seller account was even still active. Right? Because I ain't even tried to sell anything on eBay in probably.
I got to do that after this because I'm not sure either. It really has been. I can't tell you when the last time was. It's probably at least 6 or 7 years, probably.
God, it's been a long time since I moved up here. So I mean, like it's been ages since I've put anything on there. So yeah, so for me, it's not so much about where I'm shopping as far as a boycott. Now I have to transition it to, okay, how can I support the people and the process more than anything else? Because my dollars have already not gone there. You know what I mean? So like that I can't support that way by taking dollars away. So that's why we're covering the story. It's like, hey, at least we can put it out there, let people know it's a thing. You do you, right? If you still want to buy from them, go ahead. I'm not going to support them. I'm not going to promote them. At least till all this is resolved. Because that's the least I can do. But hey, there's other websites you can use.
Definitely.
Obviously, there's Card Kingdom. Like we talked about, Mana Pool is a thing. Sponsoring my YouTube stuff. You can go to Tales of Adventure. Hell, I have a code you can use and save a few bucks. Right? You don't have to go to TCGPlayer. Like there's a few other options out there. Hell, we've worked with them before. You can go to CardSphere, get cards there, right? That's an option. So yeah, there's things out there. You don't have to use TCG Player. Or some people probably used it because it was the most common name. It was the most convenient.
It was
it's
it was the Coca-Cola, if you will.
It's what they know. It's what they trusted, and I get it. Right? You get comfortable buying from a place, cool. But there's a lot of other places you can buy from. Hell, Star City is still out there. Cool Stuff Inc. Like there's a bunch of options that are all reputable, and they show up to all the shows, and they're out in the public eye. So it's not like they're not reputable people. Go check them out. It's probably worth it. But all right, man. That being said, let me get into the soapbox because I have a little bit of a rant this week. And this kind of stems from last week with our omniscience discussion. For those of you that may have missed last week's episode, I was talking about how I had used the word omniscience, talking about the magic card or whatever, and I had somebody try to correct me to the fact that it is omniscience. And I'm like, yo, bro, it's an actual English word. Like, literally linked him to some things on YouTube about how do you pronounce omniscience, and then so it had the actual enunciation of it.
It is not the scientific study of the omni.
Yeah, exactly. But then I had a couple of comments throughout the week of, I don't know if you should be calling out your commenters like that, or, your fans and your viewers, like they might not follow you anymore, or they're probably not going to leave comments. Okay. Like, first off, if you're just going to come follow me to be a knucklehead, then honestly, I don't really care if you leave a comment or not. Like, I don't. Like, I know you want me to. And as
if
a creator,
your comment is misinformation, please
don't
leave that also. We got enough misinformation out in the wild. We don't need anybody adding to it.
But that brought up another thing I've been seeing where people have gotten in this space where you want to say whatever you want to say, whether you're right or wrong, whatever, but then try to be offended when the person defends himself. And in this case, you were wrong anyway.
Right. Aggressively so.
Yeah.
Could not possibly be more wrong.
And then you're going to be mad when I correct them. Like, hell, I think I told you, I had a friend whose wife was posting comments on Facebook all the time and making posts, and they were wrong, like during the height of the pandemic. So I got time, right? So I'm going, and each one only took less than 2 minutes. Some of them not even a minute to find the correct thing of it. I'm like, no, here's what really happened. I'm like, hey, here's an article that shows you the situation. Eventually, she just posted a thing and said, like, why are you always correcting my posts? And I was like, well, why are you just posting a lot of stuff that's wrong? Right? If you're going to be wrong, don't be mad when somebody posts. Like, your thing should be, why am I getting so many incorrect bits of information that I'm sharing, not getting corrected? But anyway, I've been seeing a lot of that where people are posting stuff, making comments, saying things directly to these creators, and then being mad when they say something. Or people saying, oh, well, you shouldn't be saying stuff like that to people, whatever. I'm like, so you're supposed to just be a punching bag for people to just come take shots at you and be wrong when they're taking shots at you? Hell no. Like, and if that costs me a couple of viewers, then it's just going to cost me a couple of viewers because I don't care. Like, it's who I've been. It's the way I've always been.
Especially when your whole thing is talking about which magic cards are good. It looks, if you they're essentially insinuating you don't know what you're talking about to even the name of the card. And come on, they're on your channel, which profits from your authority, questioning your authority on a topic.
Dude, I have literally called industry friends, then made a statement in a video or on the podcast or whatever, and had people following up and go, well, I don't know if that's actually right, what you were saying, because of blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, dude, their number's in my cell phone. Like, I literally had people in the industry that showed up to my wedding. Like, I spent the night at their houses. I can't get any closer to the source of the information. You're just going to be wrong, man. I don't know what to tell you. like that, I can't do better than that. And I can't share the information publicly. And I can show you my phone and blot out the number if you want that. But at that point, you just say, I just made up a thing and just blotted out a number. So whatever, like, you're going to believe me or you're not. But I'll be damned if we're not going to defend ourselves. Right? That's just crazy. And to the point, and if you're on TikTok, you might have seen this. And I wish I remember the dude's name, but yes, he was a conservative creator and whatever. It just is what it is. But he had made some comments about how so many of the liberals aren't manly enough and they don't ever defend them. They don't stand up for anything. And I'd fight all of them and this, that, and the other. Well, over the next week, bro had people come out in droves. Like there was some gym bros. There was some MMA folks. Like they're like, well, I'm a liberal. I'll fight you. Shoot, just pick the place. Like we'll spar. We'll turn into charity. And then the dude came back up with it. Well, of course, all these people came out, but I ain't gonna fight somebody that's out of my weight class and whatever. So then some women were stepping up. That was his weight and lower. It's like, I got you. Like, oh, dude, and this one chick, she was sad. She was like killing all the workout equipment and taking dudes out in the MMA thing and her little montage. And she's like, hey, just name the place, bro. Like, and people were on both sides going, well, why is everybody attacking him? Why is everybody coming? It's like, he's the one who was talking trash.
He literally said, fight me.
He's the one who said all these people were garbage. They never stand up for themselves. And then they do. And then you're going to be upset about it. Like, come on, man. Like, what are we doing? And I tell people all the time, like, I am who I am. I have always been this way. Nothing's going to change. But like, and no matter what, I have held myself. I've had some mea culpas on this show. Like I've said, hey, this last thing I said last week, I didn't have the right information. You know, when people have shared it with me, I've corrected myself. So I'm not going to sit here and just say I'm always right, because I know I'm not. But when I am, and you're going to tell me I'm not, definitely going to defend the position. Because otherwise, what are we doing, you know? But all right, that's all I got. That's off my chest. I can move on now. All right, let's talk about some fun stuff. Some stuff that we learned this week. Because we have a couple of interesting, weird, and surprising things that I don't think people are going to know. So what you got?
Yeah, this one was so weird. As soon as I saw it come across my feed, I'm like, this seems too crazy to be true. But apparently clownfish are all born male, and then they can change their gender as the school of clownfish needs. Like, there's apparently a dominant male and a dominant female in the school. I think school is a correct term for clownfish.
Yeah.
And if something happens to the female, one of the males can just choose to become female, and the group keeps on stepping or swimming. So that was a wild thing to learn.
Yeah, that's a thing that I knew, and I guess because I have so many different zoo people and veterinary people in my life, that it had come up at some point in discussion. It's like, oh yeah, well, these fish and these fish. So apparently there's like 6-7 different types of fish that just, as it's needed or over time or how the climate changes or, you know, depending on where they're going to mate or whatever, like it's just whatever's necessary, I guess. They just make it work.
Many people said in the comments of that, you know, Nemo's dad should have been his mom as soon as his mom died. That's what Disney is lying to us about the dynamics of clownfish.
Yeah, also a popular fish that people don't know about that also do that, sea bass is another one. And they actually go from female to male, I believe. It's with sea bass.
Okay.
So, you know, people, even fish that people are familiar with, they don't know anything about them probably. I bet you that's shocking a lot of people right now. They're probably going to Google like, that's not true. Like, no, it's totally...
I saw like that seems wild. And yeah, apparently that is legit.
Yeah, it's a real thing.
No matter gender, still kick his ass, sea bass.
Yeah, but a lot of random fish, man. A lot of random fish that's a thing. Parts of the world, when you're talking about animals and science, like there's a lot of stuff that goes on that I think people aren't aware of that they've probably just interacted with every day and have no idea. So mine's actually pretty fun. And this is weird because the story starts with me hearing a thing that I'm pretty sure couldn't be true. So I went down a rabbit hole to find a thing that I'm like, oh, that's kind of awesome. So the rumor, for those of you that are old heads like us, you probably played a game on Sega called Golden Axe. Or hell, you're like me, you probably played it at the arcade first before it was even on Sega. So. It was a side scroller, just fun game. You know, if you were a kid at that time, you know the game I'm talking about.
Right.
Came out, I think, in 1989, 88, 89, something about that window. Well, turns out, and I didn't know this was a thing, apparently there's a rumor that has existed for at least 25 years that all of the voices you hear in Golden Axe were done by prisoners on death row. And I went, there's no way this could be true, right?
You know
Because
how
one,
many actors would just go would just quit the business if they lost out a role to somebody on death row? Just that
but
was
even back then, what exec at Sega would be like, the place we can get the best voice actors? Like, let's go get some death row
California
inmates.
penal, baby.
Yeah, like maybe if you were like, hey, we just want to give some money to some people that are incarcerated to help them out, or I guess maybe that could have been a thing. But yeah, so and as far as I could find, because I looked at a lot of things, a lot of websites, went to some different message forums. Nobody has been able to confirm this information. Which is weird to me because in this day and age, you would think somebody would have done an interview with somebody at Sega or asked a question at some point, but it never came up. But what I did find, which has been verified, is that a lot of the voices in there, the majority of them, came from two movies, from Rambo First Blood and Conan the Cimmerian.
That's not nearly as problematic as Death Row, but still bad because those actors didn't get paid for that.
Oh, no doubt. And what people don't know is that happened a lot with a lot of early 8-bit games. There's a lot of music, a lot of sound effects, a lot of voices that once you port it over to 8-bit with the MIDI sounds and you just move things up or down a little bit, you can't really know where it came from, but you kind of go, why does that sound slightly familiar? And then, 15 years later, you're like, that's where it came from. So that's definitely a popular thing. But yeah, and what's funny is as I started going back through and finding clips, and you're like, oh yeah, that's this scene, or that's where this thing at, or this is where this person got hurt, and it kind of makes sense. It doesn't sound exactly like it, mind you, but enough that you go.
You'd obviously notice the other thing if all of a sudden your barbarian's like, but what's that over?
Exactly.
Obviously.
I want to hear the lamentations of their women and have them kneel before, that wasn't a thing. But yeah,
they don't even actually, since you brought that up, because Conan actually got added to Mortal Kombat recently, and of course when they did the trailer, because that's Conan's most famous line, but they actually cut off the part where it said to hear the lamentations of the women.
Oh, I'm sure they did, because dude. Again, 80s and 90s were a different time. But yeah, it was kind of interesting. Like I said, a weird thing that 99% sure that didn't happen with the inmates. But again, I could see a charitable situation where it's possible. But then to find out where a lot of that actually came from was actually pretty cool. So yeah, fun little history lesson there for those of you that didn't know from your old uncles here on Color Magic.
And to me, I understand that Warner Bros. Try to make sure nobody comes for them in the comments, but Conan is quite literally a barbarian. He is not in any way woke. So that
I will say that does bring up a conversation that I've had with somebody, and not recently. It was at least a half year ago. But at what point is the reference of the thing acceptable to acknowledge despite it being kind of edgy, right? Because like you're saying with Conan, it's like, yeah, what he says is kind of on the edge, but we all know that's kind of
he was a barbarian.
Yeah, that's the character, right? So it's like, at what point is that okay or not, right? It's like, people say, you take your kids to a WWE thing, and like sometimes there's a holy crap chant, right? Like, yeah, that's gonna happen, but it's wrestling. You tell your kids, cool, this is the one place this is acceptable. Don't say it anywhere else. You know what I mean? Like, it just kind of is what it is. Like,
it doesn't mean you have to chant.
That's also true, right? You don't have to join in. So yeah, that's a whole different topic for a different discussion. We could break down a million things, but it's something that is thought about a lot. All right, let's run through some quick topics here. So, Final Fantasy, still a thing, because we had a 3-week, as it turned out, preview season, which is insane, because it's always like 1 or 2 weeks. But finally, we're getting to where people are playing.
If you count the stuff that leaks that didn't supposed to leak, it's probably, a month, 2 months?
Oh, yeah, that was definitely a month's worth. But we finally have the cards being played with now, and one of the cards, Vivi Ortinier, which is a wizard card, blue-red, is becoming a problem already for people. And where it feels like almost by the day, we're finding more things you can do with it. It combos with old cards, with new cards. And Commander, it pings all your opponents at once. Like it works with graveyard stuff. It works with just other aggro things. If there's a card that's busted in the set, it's this card. And for those of you who don't know, it's an 0/1 creature, but every time you play a non-creature spell, it gets a +1/+1 counter, and it deals 1 damage to each of your opponents. And then, for some godforsaken reason, for 0, you can add red or blue mana, your choice, equal to the power of the creature. Why that doesn't even cost like 1 or 2? Like,
how does that get through testing?
I don't know. This is a wild Magic card. It really is. Enough because people said like, "Have y'all looked at it as the Commander format panel, whatever?" Yeah, we saw the words and went, "Hold up."
Yeah. Oh, wait a minute.
Yeah, and people are already testing it, trying it, playing some games with it, so we get a rough idea for how we feel it can affect things, and not just affect things, but affect things at different play levels, right? Because there is a little bit of, I guess, leeway if it's only really making an impact at the competitive level. As long as it's not truly outright busted, then you kind of go like, all right, fine. But if it starts bothering the things at the lower to mid level, and it's just making a lot of games on fun and whatever, or the games all become about that card, then like, yeah, we're gonna have to do something about it. But my concern right now is I've seen it, even a couple of things I watched earlier and played against one where it's just, even in standard, there's some absurd things you could do without even trying hard. That's the thing.
Yeah.
Because I think we accept that if you get Summon Knight of Round, right, and you trick it into play and you get the extra tokens and you've got it at your grade, okay, cool, you worked for it a little bit. But the fact that you have a card that if it just doesn't die, you might combo off the next turn, or at least do so much that the game's virtually over, right? Because even if the game ends, you've done like 10 damage to your opponent, you got a whole new hand because you drew cards from stuff or whatever. It's like, all right, it didn't win the game, but it kind of won the game. You know what I mean? I'm hoping maybe this is just early access level stuff where people aren't playing enough defense for it or whatever. Once people know it's a known threat, maybe that changes. But I would say if there was a card in the set, at least right now, there could be something else, but at least right now, if there was one that was, I wouldn't put it on that Nadu tier, but it's up there. If there was one that could get banned, whether in standard or in commander, it's probably Vivi Ortinier right now, if I were guessing. Hoping it doesn't become a problem. Moving on, we have a Juneteenth celebration that people may not know about. So if you're going to be in MagicCon Vegas, which is Friday, Saturday, Sunday, well, the Thursday before, which is, I believe, the 19th, you actually can go to a Juneteenth celebration. There's going to be some different drafts going on, some giveaways, some raffles. It's being put on by Queen of Cardboard and Black Nito, a.k.a. your boy, Joe Johnson. I think that's how he says it on his channel. But like, I think he actually says Nino Brown, then Joe Johnson, because I don't know what that has to do with anything. But hey, it's Joe being Joe. But yeah,
Nino Brown, sir.
Yeah, exactly. But there's going to be, I think, shirts and playmats and other stuff you can buy too. They have a really sweet logo on them that came up for the event. And it's open, I believe it's open to the public. Oh no, there's tickets. You have to go to their Eventbrite. You can look up Juneteenth celebration and it'll come up there. And yeah, it seems really cool that they're actually putting something on and, you know, kind of openly getting to promote it with all the stuff kind of associated with MagicCon for the creators.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can find the ticket price for anybody who's interested. Because even if you're in the area, maybe you can't afford to go to MagicCon or whatever, you can stop by and just hang out. It's going to be 4 p.m. if you want to get there early to do some meet and greet with different creators, or if you just want to hang out throughout the evening. It's supposed to go all the way until midnight, I believe. Event lasts for 6 hours plus, and tickets are $20. So yeah, Juneteenth celebration with tabletop jocks. If you just go to Eventbrite, EVENTBRITE. If you've gone to events, you've seen the site before, but eventbrite.com, just look up Juneteenth celebration. And that should get you the opportunity to hang out with a lot of creators and have some fun. Also, quick aside, I think a lot of people hadn't actually heard about Juneteenth until recently when it started to become a bit of news, you know,
Yeah.
and some of that, you know, kind of the good and the bad of what came with the pandemic and the George Floyd thing or whatever is people learned about a lot of other stuff, you know, like, and Juneteenth was one of them because I think people just went, this is just a random holiday made up on the calendar. And this was like, no, it actually is a, I don't want to say celebration, but it commemorates, I guess, the emancipation of slaves in the US. Like that's the date that's chosen to celebrate it. So for people who don't know, that's why it was a thing. And actually, if I'm not mistaken, I believe in Texas was where they did the first Juneteenth
Yeah.
celebration. So that's also pretty cool. So, a little bit of education for everybody there, along with their fun stuff.
And believe it or not, you'll find that lots of cultures probably have holidays you haven't ever heard of before, especially if you haven't, interacted with them very much.
Oh, bruh, tell me about it. Even where I have. Like when I was at Wizards, there were things, it was just like, oh, well, I can't call like China today because it's this thing, or France is celebrating this thing, or whatever. And like there were so many things. It's like, okay, well, we can't schedule it on Tuesday because they won't be back in the office because of such and such. So we got to schedule their meeting on Thursday or whatever.
Right?
There's a lot. And it's good. I think every culture, background, country has something different in their history that is important to them.
Exactly.
So it is cool that they get to celebrate it. Also, randomly, speaking of random holidays, when I was in Chicago last time, I found out apparently St. Patrick's Day, that's like a huge deal in Chicago. Like they turn the rivers green and stuff even. Like it's crazy. Like I was like, I don't know why Chicago, but apparently it's a big thing in Chicago. But yeah, let's talk about
a huge Irish population, I guess, would be where they're doing that.
I would assume so.
I think Boston does something.
Yeah, Boston, I get. Like Boston makes total sense. I was just surprised to find out about it in Chicago. But yeah, let's talk about Secret Lair here for a minute. We haven't really talked. I'm just thinking about. I just realized we ain't said nothing about Secret Lair in a bit. So maybe that's a good thing. But here we have a new Secret Lair that's being done in conjunction with the National Association of Latino Arts and Cultures, or NALAC as it goes by. But the cool part is, this is one, it's a very large Secret Lair. It's 9 cards. I don't remember the last time I've seen a 9-card Secret Lair. I think even the Secret Lair Black is Magic was 7 cards. I guess this is technically 7 and 2 tokens, but you're still getting 7 cards or 9 cards for your money. They also kept it at the $29.99 price, even with extra cards.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so if you want it regular, $29.99, foil $39.99. They also are going to print it in English and in Spanish, so you can choose which one you want to buy. Because, of course, because of the charity they're supporting, it makes sense to have it in the language that people of that they're supporting would probably speak. So that's just a cool gesture all around, honestly. And on top of that, the cards they're putting in there are actually really good. Some of them are kind of staple cards. Some of them are cards that are just high value. Some haven't been printed in a while. So lots of really cool stuff. And of course, because you always get a Secret Lair soul ring in these things, the soul ring looks like almost like an ornate golden mask that would be worn by like natives in maybe like Mexico or the Aztecs or whatever. Really, really cool looking piece.
Awesome.
Yeah, like this is the type of stuff, and this kind of puts you in that spot that makes it tough, right? You get these types of things that you're like, this promotion is exactly what it needs to be.
Yeah.
Right? Like you've even taken the effort to put it in another language. You're flavoring everything with the art and the colors and the styles that you would expect. Like you've made it valuable so people want to buy it. 50% of every sale is going to the charity, which is also awesome.
This is how you would do it.
Yeah. And this is why it's hard when you say like, oh, well, they don't want to support certain things or they don't want to support minorities or whatever, because they'll make some other decision. But then you see this and go like, but then there's other times they do get it exactly right.
Yeah.
And
like we see every year, except for I think the one time, Black History Month just kind of comes and goes and nothing happens.
Yeah. And and then again, the other side of that is you have the cool pride shirts and stuff that they do, right? So it's just like, it's so frustrating because you're like, we know in your heart of hearts,
you need what you can do.
Yeah, you are trying to support a lot of these causes, and they're making a lot of good efforts when they make them. It's just other times it just gets fumbled for one reason or another, or gets forgotten or whatever. Just like, ugh.
One of the reasons is not still having a diversity director, unless I missed an announcement somewhere.
That's probably part of it.
That is the primary reason. There used to be somebody whose job it was to do these things.
Yeah, I'd have to look because it's been a few months. I don't even know who's the WotC diversity director. I don't even know if they have a new diversity director. I'm with you.
Unless it happened recently, and I've been checking. So
Yeah, I'd have to look. We'll do a follow up next week because I'll probably have to deep see even if they've replaced her or not. But yeah, this is one of those things, give credit where it's due. For as much as people say when you get it wrong, we're expected to talk about it, take shots or whatever. But at the same time, when they get it right, we just gotta golf clap it. Like you did the right thing. There's no reason people shouldn't enjoy this, even if you don't care about the charity. They made it good enough that you will still want to buy it, and that money will still get to go to charity. So yeah, can't be mad at that. And speaking of another company randomly doing something nice, Diablo 4 is about to celebrate 2 years. It didn't even feel I haven't even gotten a chance to play it yet. I'm like,
Me neither.
I want to. It looks sweet.
Yeah, I absolutely do.
But yeah, 2 years. And what they're doing for their 2-year celebration is they're apparently making some cool cosmetics, and they're going to make it to where players can buy it without having to spend any new money. They can, obviously,
Yeah.
but without spending new money, they can use just in-game gold to go buy them. And that's kind of a surprise, really, but also really cool that that's even a thing they're doing. That, hey, you don't have to go out of your way if you don't have the money. You just want to celebrate, get some cool stuff and run around, showing that you've been here for 2 years or whatever, or at least you were here as part of the first 2 years. You can have some cool exclusive gear. And like, kind of surprised me. I just saw that and went, man, good on y'all, Blizzard, because I wouldn't have thought that to be a thing. How often do you see something like that with games these days?
I mean, I think everybody does a little something free, especially if they got in-game economy, because they know once you get in there, they know a certain percentage of the people are going to spend money. Like one of the ways FC25 got me back was there was a Diego Maradona card that was technically free, but hey, if you pay like $9.99, you could upgrade him and he'll be even better. Luckily, I had some free PlayStation stuff I'd unlocked from the now defunct PlayStation Stars Rewards program, so I got to upgrade mine for free. But yeah, they got me to play a game I had pretty much stopped playing for a couple of months.
Man, what was that ad campaign? What was that ad campaign recently where they're like, it's free, but is it free? Like, that's sort of what it feels like. Like, it's free, but is it really free? Now, don't get me wrong. I do think there is something to the business side of this, too. If you, like you're saying, you get people into the system, they're more likely to probably spend some money or whatever, right? If they spend all their in-game currency and then you make the next sweet thing, they might be like, well, let me go give them $5 or whatever so I can get this cool helmet, whatever, right?
So that's probably from now on. I'm gonna with NBA 2K. I think I'm just gonna show up in June from now on because this I think it's gonna be either the last or the next to last season of content we get since a new one comes out in September. They're giving out level 100 cards just like it's going out of style because they know that this is when most people have stopped playing.
Yep, get that last push of sales because you're probably gonna get much over the
now.
Summer.
Like this, the lineup you can get now for free probably would have cost you $4,000 or $5,000 a couple of months ago.
Yeah, I mean they know when the money's being spent. It's just one of those things. But yeah, it's always interesting trying to see how games treat their in-game economies, the behavior of the buyers and the players within each game, because that's also very different from game to game, which is also interesting to follow. So it's somebody's on staff at every one of these companies to figure out that math and understand the buying patterns or whatever. But I think when you go from one game to the next, people will be surprised sometimes about like, why is this a thing? Or why is this worth more than this or whatever? It's like, dude,
there is no decision that's made by accident. That I can promise you.
They have spent time figuring that out. I promise. Even the free stuff, there's probably some logic to it.
Because they can't get your money if you ain't playing the game.
Yeah, that's very true. That is very true. But all right, Brian, where can everybody find you when you're not doing the show?
All right. App Trigger is where you can read all the things that I've been writing about, that we've been talking about. App Trigger is on Blue Sky. And if you drop by my YouTube channel at Brian Sonic, I am getting a win with every character in WWE 2K25.
That's a lot of characters, bro.
I figure I end up getting at least 200 some odd ranked wins every year. I'm probably not getting them with Doink the Clown necessarily. That's going to be the thing. It's a little different. And yeah, towards the end of this, it will be like, oh my God, why did I say I was going to do this? But that'll be the most fun part probably. Because at the end, it'll be people like Doink the Clown, Stardust,
Sometimes
random,
you got to have a gimmick, man.
right?
But yeah, if you want to find me, it's at PowrDragn, PowrDragn. And I have tons of stuff right now covering Final Fantasy. If you want to get into that, we're going to be obviously having a bunch of videos with new decks. But also, if you're going to be going to pre-releases this weekend and you're listening to this before Sunday, I have 2 videos. One is how to build a sealed deck in 6 minutes. I also have another on things to prepare yourself for the pre-release, which those are very helpful for people every pre-release season. But as always, wherever you are watching or listening, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. Please remember to take care of yourselves and your family. Remember to be awesome. And most importantly, be awesome to each other.